G'day guys, welcome back to Beers and Breakevens, brought to you by Blue Wealth Property. They make investing in property easy for you. Also brought to you by Bloke in a Bar, the best beer in the land. Kempy's got his jerseys that absolutely dominated Magic Round during the year. They'll be dropping again tonight. I believe, Matty's, you got up to 6 and 7XL?
Yeah, I think we've got 7XL.
7XL, big thickies covered. I think I was wearing about a 3, and that was a good fit on me. So 6 and 7 going up to the big boys there, taking care of you as always, Kempy. Speaking of taking care of people, I'm here babysitting once again. Timmy, what's doing?
You're babysitting me, you reckon?
You're getting a little bit closer, but
Jeez,
yeah.
That's a big call this early. With what's about to come up in the next 5 minutes, that is a big call to say you're babysitting me.
Well, shall we rip the Band-Aid off?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Now, my big call last week was Brian To'o to go sub 50. He went in at the 25th minute mark at 51 points and finished at a tick over 50 points, 2 tries in the first half. Mate, I have never been bullied so badly in my entire life. Fuck, it was a 48 hours.
Yeah, and well-deserved as well. Mate, it's like, you know, we come on here each week and we build up this rivalry between yourself and I, and we beat it up. But at the end of the day, I want you to do well. As much enjoyment as I get out of seeing you have a low week, but, I mean, I'm here to help you, mate, and help your team. And I say you can lead a horse to water, but if you're going to sit Brian To'o and Jerome Hughes against my advice, then there's only so much I can do for you, mate.
What about Stephen Crichton turning into fucking Matt Gidley all of a sudden? As soon as I downed him, I couldn't believe it. I was filthy.
He's starting to shed the old glue hands tag.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I've got to wear that one. He definitely is. Mate, I'll tell you what my highlight of the entire weekend was. Obviously, I posted that clip of me saying that Friday afternoon. Instagram got a bit of traction. People, you're mad. I'm going to sit in, blah, blah, blah. And I posted it on TikTok as well. Now, I'm very lazy with the old TikTok. I just forget it exists all the fucking time. So I might put up 1 or 2 things a week. I just remembered at that time, I thought, oh, this is a good bit of content. It'll be interesting. I'll throw it up on TikTok. The game kicks off. I go and look at my TikTok. It's got 1,000 views, right? It's done fuck all. Nothing doing. I come back at 11 o'clock that night after being bullied relentlessly via Instagram, open it up. Since the game kicked off to 11 p.m., so over about 5 hours, it went from 1,000 views to 7 fucking thousand views. And you should have seen the teenagers in the comments fucking giving it to me. There was about 35 comments. There was no comments at kickoff there. I was getting punished left, right, and fucking centre.
Brian To'o probably shared it calling you a muppet.
Mate, I couldn't fucking believe it. I'm clicking on all these accounts going, oh, you're literally in high school bullying the shit out of me, and you're not wrong. Fair whack. It was...
You copped your medicine well, mate. I'll give you that.
It was quite a 24 hours, but more importantly, it really did fuck me last week. I was looking at my score at the end of the week. Of my 3 highest scorers, of my 4 highest scorers, I only played 1 of them. 3 of them sat on my reserves bench.
So was it Hughes, To'o?
Dewey.
Jesus, mate.
And then I think my only other one was Papali'i. I think he got 130 odd or something. I think they were my 4 highest scorers, and I didn't play 3 of them. So a pretty grim week. I scored 1,029. My rank dropped about 200 spots, so I'm sitting 409th at the moment. How did you go? Where are we sitting?
12.55, mate. So finally some relatively solid green arrows after just meandering for a month or so. So up to 795 overall, and the gap is closing.
Mate, the gap is closing rapidly. I think it's 175 points between us. We heading for a wager, or what do you reckon?
What sort of start are you giving me?
Yeah, well, I think...
I don't know if I need one, but I'll take it.
I'm going to keep my lead, I think. I want to hold my lead a little bit. If I give you 100 points, or do you want more? What is it, 175? We give you 125.
What? Give me 100, mate.
Give you 100? Okay, 100. What's our currency here? What are we talking?
Lifetime supply of bloke and a beer.
One of the ones sitting at the door. We'll take it. I'll give you 100 start. We'll go 200 on the nose.
200 on the nose, and I'm starting 75 behind. How's your depth?
Make the bet, then we'll talk about it. I know you're without your penny Panthers, obviously.
Yeah, without my top.
No, I'll give you 125. So you're 50 points behind,
125,
okay?
200. Let's do it.
200 on the nose. Done. All right, let's see how we go. You got a trade left too, don't you? Actually, I know what you're doing, and I don't like your move, so I'm happy with that anyway.
Do you have a trade?
No. We blew them all yesterday on reserve graders from Cronulla, so that was good. Fucking did nothing. That was the other thing. I was sitting there going, I'm going Ben Hunt, Jack Bird, and then I moved to Lockie Miller and Jesse Ramian, and I thought, God, they went average. The Dragons are going to explode, and thankfully the boys did even worse at the Dragons. So
your grand plan of saving your trade boost for round 25, and you were gone by round 24.
And I know that I was talking to our good mate Stephen Hebner throughout the year, and I said to him, I'm going to save all these trades for the back end. And he said to me, and I remember him saying it because I thought, you fuckwit, shut up. He said, the worst thing about saving trades is you feel like you have to use them, and if it doesn't work, it's not worth anything in the end. That's exactly how I fucking feel. When I was watching Miller and Ramian combine for 60, I was just devastated. Now, we'll get to team lists in a second, but the Penny Panthers resting all 13 of theirs. You have got a few Panthers in your side. In fact, I think you've got more than Ivan. How are you going to go with depth this week?
Good, mate. So it's been a funny one. It's one of them years where I think due to the tightness of the ladder and fortunately not a lot of injuries, particularly to key SuperCoach players in the last month or so, we haven't been, in terms of my long-believing strategy of playing the long game, planning for depth. It has certainly come in handy, particularly when it comes to sit v starts, but because there hasn't been the mass restings that we've sort of seen in previous years, it's probably not been as effective, hence why I probably dropped down in the top 1,000 rather than others where normally going up this time of year. This week it's starting to look a lot better.
Yeah.
So obviously the Panthers boys out. I lose Kikau, To'o and Taylor May, which isn't ideal, but I can cover them all pretty well. I've got a trade in hand. There can be more outs and I'm still sitting all right this week. So I'm very happy with how it is, and the more outs, the better for me at this stage.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I don't have a heap of those Panthers. I don't have Kikau. I have got To'o, obviously. Motherfucker. I don't have Taylor May. I've got Tungo, though, so it's worked out okay. Now, $2,000 up for grabs, as it has been all year on beers and break-evens for whoever wins our group. And as it stands right now, the Dark Knights Glenn sitting first in our group. He's third overall. Just having a look at the overall stats, it's going to be pretty tough for him to rein it in to win first overall, but I'm sure he'll have a good whack at captaincies and try and have a crack at it. But as it stands right now, Glenn, the Dark Knights, leading the race for $2,000 dues from Beers and Break-Evens would be sensational. In second place is the Bearded Clams Alex, who I believe is leading the SuperCoach playbook.
He is out in front, yep.
He's in front. Now, he is only, carry the one, he's about 98 points behind. So, Alex, the Bearded Clams, well and truly within... I've been able to catch Glenn this week. A few good choices there. I think when we did the live show out of Homebush, I think some of Alex's mates came and found us there, said how excited he was about this year.
Killing it.
Mitchell in third place. He is sitting about 129 points behind first place, so he can still get it. And Jacob as well, who's sitting about 160 away. So I think it's between those four. Do you back Glenn to get it done from here?
I do, mate. He flicked me a message during the week, Glenn, the Dark Knight. So as likely a 90 supporter, it's good to see that he'll get a decent little, hopefully, if he can get it done and stay around that top 3 or top 10, bit of cash coming his way if he can hold on after a tough year for the 90s.
Might see if Glenn wants to come down the highway and spend a night with us.
Yeah, fair chance.
He's 2G.
A few tins.
Wouldn't mind it. All right. Let's get into team lists for this week. There is a little bit happening, obviously. Thursday, we've got the Eels taking on the Storm. Mate, I had a look at this game. Not really much doing. The one guy we'll talk about is Brandon Smith. You have got him in your side. I'm sure a lot of people have him. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to have to rely on him this week. Obviously, Damien Cook out. And I had those Panthers boys, Kikau. Some people would still have Isaac Tungo in their 2RF as well. So I'm sure a huge amount of people will be relying on Cheese this week. You confident playing him?
I'm not, no. I do think there's every chance that he starts. He does get named on the bench a little bit and has over the last month, but during this Storm sort of resurgence in form, he's started in nearly all these games since he's come back from suspension it was. So I think there's every chance he starts, and he's a funny one. He's one that ideally I would probably sit this week, but because he plays in game one, I can see pending certain results, and in particular this Eels Storm game, pending the result in that one, there just being a lot more restings to come. Now, we'll get to a few more later, but if you can lock in a player he was a gun last year, he's not a gun this year, but he's a long way from being a dud on your bench. He's a guy that should be safe for 40 to 50, but there is upside to him. We know he can jag a try and a line break, an assist here. So he's one that, as I said, I'd like to sit, but I think the smart play is just to get him over and done with early, and then if there are outs later in the week, it'll be easy to cover.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, Cheese is probably a 40 to 50 if he has no attacking upside. A 40 to 50 on Thursday could be much better than an Adam Elliott or a Tapane not playing.
Yeah,
Sunday.
And that's the big one, isn't it, mate? And it also makes it tough because I think that Raiders match up against the Tigers is a great one to target for pod hunters, people looking to make big jumps overall. But if the Dragons knock the Broncos off, which is every chance from what we've seen the last couple of weeks, I would just be very surprised if Sticky doesn't come out. And this isn't any inside information, but rest Joe Tapine, Hudson Young, Geordie Rapana, these sorts of blokes. Tap's coming off that rib injury, and Hudson Young, who hasn't missed much game time this year, they're the two that stand out for me, who are the SuperCoach relevant ones. And as a Canberra Raiders fan and as a SuperCoach who doesn't own Joe Tapine, God, I hope the Dragons beat the Broncos.
Can we see Chance get a game? Fucking surely.
If that happens, why not?
Why not?
Surely you're playing.
If it's a dead rubber, put him out there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see him on the bench anyway. But do you know when your Raiders reserve grade team plays this week?
I do not. I can check it right away.
Maddie's going to have a look for us. Anyway, Eels versus Storm. That was a good Canberra Raiders chat. Fucking typical Timmy.
You started it, dickhead.
Yeah, sure.
It's finals in New South Wales Cup, so no Eels. No Raiders. No Raiders.
No Raiders. Okay. Well, yep, that's even more alarming then.
Yeah.
They won't be somewhere else or anything.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay. Friday, 6 p.m, we got Dogs taking on the Manly Seagulls. For Canterbury, TPJ returns on the bench. Corey Waddell returns as well. TPJ back in. I feel like we sit here every week. Oh, fuck, another forward on the bench. Max King. Is it doomsday? Do we give a fuck anymore? Do you think he'll be okay still?
He'll be okay, but the other one, Luke Thompson's on the extended bench as well. So
did he play last week?
He had COVID.
That's right. Okay.
So, when we do talk about King used to sit v start each week and what if you need to play him, will his minutes be impacted? I just think it hasn't really lined up where TPJ and Thompson have been there together, which they're both in his position. So, and they're big minute players. Insane, TPJ played New South Wales Cup last week. So who knows? King's safe enough. I suppose the question is, if you do have the luxury of making the decision, would you sit v start? Would you sit or start Max King?
If I have the luxury of other guys, I think I would sit him, especially if Luke Thompson is playing. Just on TPJ, I think I saw the most poetic tweet of all time last weekend when he was playing reserve grade. It said, Tavita Pangai Jr. just broke 3 tackles, threw a cutout pass, hit Ockenbaugh on the chest, and he's dropped it. I could just see it in my head playing out exactly in that fashion. Yeah. For the Manly Seagulls, interesting Kohler. I think he's been the shining light there, not to steal Kempy's post from the other day. At fullback, they moved him back to centre. KO Weeks comes in at fullback, a very interesting one. But the biggest news for SuperCoach fans, probably the most irrelevant news of all time for general NRL fans, but Burbo on the bench. It will be a week where just about everyone will have a free shot at their VC if they want to. Burbo on the bench is a bit of a stinger. Free shot at VC, you reckon? It's bloody, speak for yourself. Your side must be battling. As if you won't. You got half the Panthers. Are you that short? I've still got Pole and Andrew for feed. Oh, yeah, but if you want to, you've got plenty of opportunities. Yeah. Oh, sorry, yeah, I've got you. There's options for the. He's new to SuperCoach, guys. Just bear with him. Proceed. Fortunately, I'm not a Burbo owner, so I don't really care. Nor am I, thank fuck. Yeah, but AE nightmare. He could play 3 minutes for 1.5 points if they can muster that up somehow. Yeah, for sure. Half a missed tackle. Yeah, so just a pain in the ass, isn't it? Yeah, I'm glad I'm saying that. Can't say he didn't see it coming. Yep, yeah, exactly right. There was always huge potential of this. Roosters v South, 7:55 from the new stadium. For the Chooks, Momirovski on the wing, Hutcho at centre once again, and Takiaho in the lock forward role. I wouldn't be surprised to see some changes potentially around the lock role. I wouldn't be surprised to see Takiaho come off the pine. Momirovski on the wing there, obviously replacing Daniel Tupu. If you were a Tupu owner the entire year, you're probably out of trades now, and that's pretty unlucky, isn't it?
It is surprisingly low ownership too, Pooh. I sort of had a look at this one yesterday when it came out, thinking, it might be 10 to 20%. It was something like 3 or 4% in the top 100 through to top 1,000. So people certainly slept on him, and now that he's missing the final week, and obviously played about 15 minutes last weekend and scored a try in that time, so got away with it. But Radley out. Their form, and we spoke about it on Monday in the Bloke in the Bar podcast quite in depth, but Radley being out, since he came back from, I don't know if it was a suspension or an injury or whatever it was, the Roosters have clicked. Their attack has gone nuts. So I don't think it's not ideal for their attacking contingent in SuperCoach, but, not a massive difference.
Yeah. For the South Sydney Rabbitohs, Paulo comes back in at centre. Tane Milne on the wing, but the big news, Damien Cook out. If you've been running with the Grant Cook combo for the last few weeks, Cook's missed the last 2 weeks of the SuperCoach season. Pretty rough one there, which just helps our narrative even more, doesn't it?
Yeah, and again, other ones that I sort of mentioned, Tupu was pretty low ownership. Damien Cook I had a look at, and he was, probably shouldn't say, he was surprisingly high. 47% of the top 100, 35% of top 1,000 through to top 5,000. So he's heavily owned. That is a dagger.
Yeah, big dagger. I'm also without one of my hookers in Jazz Tavunga this week. He's still sitting on my side. So I know how you feel losing a star hooker.
You nearly had a hooking combo of Aaron Clark and Jazz Tavunga.
Oh, God. Imagine if I still had Aaron Clark, I'd be begging for a Brian Toto double. That would have been a tough knock. Saturday afternoon, we got the Warriors and the Titans at 3 p.m. coming to you from Mount Smart. Titans, not a heap to touch on there for the Warriors. Aitken, he's back if you've still got him. Decent little matchup there against the Titans, who have been going pretty well, though. Josh Curran also named in the back row. Whether he stays there or not remains to be seen. Jack Murchie floating around in jersey 21 or 18 or something along those lines. So keep an eye on that one. I don't mind Josh Curran as a little pod play this week. He's got attacking upside.
Yeah, for sure. And the other one, probably team relevant news, is Reece Walsh is another little bit of a fly this week that I don't mind as a super pod. The only thing is that Sean Johnson has been named. He didn't finish the game last week. I think it was a groin niggle. So, he'd still be in doubt, but just I think it probably comes down to if you want to get Walsh, the goal kicking. Now, if he's goal kicking, I think he's a great go. If he's not, there's probably just a bit too much risk associated, but there's every chance, even if SJ does play, that he kicks.
Yeah.
Walsh, that is.
5:30 game, Dragons taking on the Broncos. For St George, no real changes. Jack Bird goes back, or named at 13 anyway. Whether he runs out there remains to be seen. Bud Sullivan's at 9, but Andrew McCulloch's been named on the extended. I assume if Macca's fit, he will come straight in, which will move Bud Sullivan back there. Not overly SuperCoach relevant. For the Broncos, Paddy Carrigan's back. Thank fucking God. I don't know if there's anyone that they desperately need back more than him at this very moment.
Modern day Sean Fensom of the Broncos.
Modern day Sean Fensom. Ezra Mam out. Tyson Gamble in, and Selwyn Cobbo back as well. Tyson Gamble announced it's come out yesterday. He's going to sign a 2-year deal with the Newcastle Knights. So an interesting one there too. Drop Mam this week, bring Gamble in when he's leaving the club. Brisbane, tough watch at the moment.
Yeah, well, they've just turned into a basket case, haven't they? And as a New South Welshman, I couldn't be happier. 32% ownership, Ezra Mam. Again.
Still?
Still.
In the top 100?
Top 100, top 1,000, 30%, top 5,000, 34%, top 10,000, 37%. So, as I said, we sit here and say, maybe the long-term depth strategy hasn't worked out as well. There's going to be a lot of sides short. I've already seen teams around that have got 15 players, and this is pre-further restings that could come about this weekend. So, people that have stacked up and lined up with might have an Ezra Mam, a Damien Cook there. Obviously, might have gone heavy on Penrith players. There's going to be some shot sides.
Yeah, for sure. Have you seen any teams that are in the top 100 relevant? They're going to be that short?
I haven't paid enough attention to it at this stage, but hopefully the great man Adam DeRusi gets his stats, because he'll have those exact numbers around how short everyone is. It'll be gold. Yeah,
DeRusi, keep an eye on your phone. I will be pestering you this weekend. All right, let's move to the 7:35 game. Saturday night, Cowboys versus the Penny Panthers. Did named on the extended bench for the North Queensland Cowboys. He is one tough motherfucker. I couldn't think of anything worse than coming back from that within 2 weeks. Unbelievable.
It is. Tough nut, isn't he?
Tough nut. I like that.
SuperCoach relevance too. Because obviously they're a substantially better side with Tom Dearden in the halves. But a bloke I'm keen on this week that we'll get to a bit more later, but Scott Drinkwater, And if the Cowboys do get out to a lead in this one and Tommy Dearden plays, you would assume it means Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow on the bench. Do we see Drinky getting an early spell in this one if they get out to a lead?
Quite possibly. I can never rule it out. Now that I'm out of my draft competition, I can stop looking at it as the most biased Scott Drinkwater fan of all time. And yeah, it does worry me, especially if they do get out to a lead and they need to rest guys. It would make sense.
Whereas if Dearden doesn't play and Hammers in the halves, I think Drinky will go the distance.
I'm not alarmed in the slightest. Yeah, if he's but if he does come back in Dearden, that is that's a worrying little point there. In saying that, they have shown throughout the year that they will give Peter Hiku a rest at any opportunity possible. So fingers crossed, but it is a bit of a punt to take at the end of the day. Now, for the Penrith Panthers, they've had mass restings. I know Tim told you last week there's no way Brian Toto wouldn't miss this week and all that shit, but you win some, you lose some, as we've learnt this week.
You've lost the plot, mate.
I had to get you back with something. I'm fucking struggling. Look, I'm just going to go through this Panthers side. Charlie Staines at fullback, Taruva on one wing, Christian Crichton on the other side, Robert Jennings in the centres, and Thomas Jenkins. Thomas Jenkins, very talented young gun. I think he'll do very well. Kurt Falls, Sean O'Sullivan in the halves, Lindsay Smith and Matty Eisenhuth up front with Mitch Kenny in the 9, Chris Smith, Scotty Sorensen in the back row, Jermaine Hopgood in the 13, Sonny Luke, Eddie Blacko, and then Liam Henry and Jack Cole, who are the only two that I haven't heard of, coming off the bench there. You've still got Maverick Guy, Preston Ricky, who are both very talented back rowers. It's a tough one. If I was picking this team, I would put those two onto my bench. They've just both got a couple of screws loose, and I think they'd be handy to have. But you said to me pre-show, and it's a good point, Liam Henry, Jack Cole, both making their NRL debuts. It is a bit odd to name them and then pull them. So you would have to assume this is kind of the team they run out with. Let's talk about this game now quickly, because we don't have any questions from people on this one. I personally don't think the Cowboys put on the cricket score that people are anticipating. I think this Penrith Panthers system will go up there. These kids will take the opportunity. It's not like you're throwing together a bunch of strangers that have never met each other and never played together. These guys all play reserve grade together every single week. They've all defended together in the past. I think Ivan will have these boys up for this one. You're thinking a little bit differently. I think the Cowboys win, but I don't think it's a landslide. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the Cowboys smoked them, and as good as the system is at Penrith, we know about, but, the 1-13 is solid enough. You've got to also remember that when these blokes that we're looking at there pop into first grade and do get a run, they're playing the best side in the comp, and they're probably made to look like stars. You then go to the bench, and you've got four blokes. All right, there's some raps on Sonny Luke, who we've seen a little bit of, but Blacker, Henry, Jack Cole, they've pulled off Henry and Cole. They come from Snowy River Bears reserve grade last weekend. Mate, I just think people are looking too much into the Penrith Panthers system, how good it is. They'll come up, at the end of the day, it's a reserve grade team coming up to play the team running third in the NRL in Townsville. It just seems too good to be true for me from a SuperCoach perspective. I just think they'll blow them off the park. I'm looking forward to the game because we've said for a while, haven't we? Wouldn't you love to see Penrith reserve grade? And because they've been so dominant in that in the NRL, I'm just not convinced. I think the Cowboys put a score on them, and I'll be targeting this game pretty heavily.
So you're a bit more PG than what you were pre-show. You called them 13-week gutted dogs before we kicked off, which I thought was a little bit over the top. Yeah. I think this Panthers side will hold their own. I'm going to have a topic on this show very soon where I go through and I pick out a couple of guys for your draft teams this week if you're in your grand final, a couple of smokies. So we'll come back to those guys then, but I think the Panthers put up a good fight there.
What's your score prediction?
I think North Queensland get them by about 14.
I'll go 46-10.
Nah, they'll hold in. I'll say 28-14. They win this one. All right. We will be back next week too for Beers and Breakevens, so we'll be able to fight over that bone too.
I was going to say you've been right before, but I'm not convinced you have.
It's been a minute. All right, 2 p.m. Sunday afternoon. We've got the Newcastle Knights taking on the Cronulla Sharks from up there at Newcastle. Not much doing here for Newcastle that interests me. For the Sharkies, Ikavalu comes back. Dale Finucane on the extended there. Now, the Ikavalu coming back obviously could have a pretty big impact on Mulatalo. You said on Monday that you're stoked he's on the right-hand side, on Nico Hines' side, scoring tries. Do you assume Ikavalu comes back on the right and Mulatalo goes back to the left?
I would think so, but I don't see that with confidence. Like, who knows which way they're going to go with that one. I just know that earlier in the year, Ikavalu played on the right and Mulatalo on the left, so maybe they switch to them, but I think we're probably seeing a trend that there's more tries being scored on the right edge at the Sharkies. So I would prefer Mulatalo on the right. That being said, in this matchup, the Sharkies are unreal, attacking both sides of the field. Moisa, who plays on the left, actually set Mulatalo up for that try on the right with a pass. So we see him and Nico chop and change in attacking sets. Not the end of the world, but I would like to see Mulatalo on the right.
How good was that pass from Moylan, by the way? Oof. I don't think we talked it up enough on Monday. Just letting the line glide past him and playing through it.
How good is it seeing Moylan string games together? I know he just missed a couple with injury, but by his history, it's just wonderful.
It's unreal. He's such a talented footballer to watch. All right, the last game of the week, Tigers Raiders, 4 o'clock. I've got nothing written here as far as team lists go, but this could be the biggest fucking carnage week of all time. This could be the incoming tsunami come Sunday. So, as we said, a guy like Joey Tapine, I definitely won't be starting in my team. He'll be on my reserves list, and I'll make a decision after that Broncos game whether I play him or not. Mate, I think it's the sort of game that if you guys do get out to a big lead, which, based on how you played last week, you quite possibly could. Tapine could still only play 30, 40 minutes realistically. He'll be the first guy that you rest along with Josh, and you've got enough middles on the bench to be able to do that. So even if he does play, I'm very nervous about him.
Yeah, I think so. It'll be really intriguing to see how it does pan out. And so much is hinging on that Dragons and Broncos result. Well, I mean, everything is. Then what doesn't help is that the Dragons Broncos play 5:30 Saturday, Tigers Raiders the 4 p.m. game on Sunday. So at the 24-hour cutoff mark on teams, we're not going to know if any of these players have dropped out. So when they cut down to only 2 on the extended bench?
Yeah, we will. 4 o'clock. We'll know an hour and a half before the Broncos kick off.
Yeah, sorry, but the result in the Dragons Broncos.
Oh, gotcha. Yes, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So, if it was the other way around, we would know. And let's say the Dragons had beaten the Broncos, they might just go Tap's gone, Hutto gone. Yeah. But we're not going to know that, which doesn't help.
Yeah, but at the same time, that probably does help the cause of they can only rest 2 guys at that point. So that does help. But I still think the guys that they'll rest, one of them will be Joey Tapine if they can. Yeah. You have to assume.
Which then also lends into, let's say they don't rest Tapine, but they're locked into the top 8. Does he just come off the bench and play 20 minutes, which would be worse, essentially.
And you would have to assume that at least one of Tapine or Elliott is rested, and I would assume the other one comes off the bench and does fuck all for you. Yeah. So it's a tough one.
Taps is the man to get a rest if they can.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that does us for team lists. Let's get into our Blue Wealth Hot Property Player of the Week prediction for round 25, our last Blue Wealth Hot Property player prediction of the year. I'm going to go for Matty Burton against the Manly Seagulls. I think Manly are in absolute fucking free fall at the moment. I think Burton kick a heap of goals, set up a couple of tries, and probably score one himself. I'm going to take Burton. Now, before I throw it over to you, I just want to read you out a list of superstars in our game. Paul Turner, Aaron Woods, Trindle, KO Weeks, Ben Murdoch-Masila, the great Jake Arthur. Do you know what they all have in common? They were in the top 10 lowest scorers of last week, as was your Blue Wealth Hot Property Player of the Week, Ben Hunt, with a score of fucking 11. See if you can redeem yourself this week. Who you got?
I'm so filthy at that because my top pick last week, and I went hard on it on podcasts and articles and everything, was AJ Brimson. He was my number 1 trade-in target, and he went 139. I came here this week thinking, surely he was my Blue Wealth property player. And then I was like, I asked you about who I went, and you just laughed at me and put your head down. Oh, no, I went Ben Hunt. I had to look into him. He also has 2 single-digit scores this season, out before that. Yeah. This week, Scotty Drinkwater versus the Penrith Panthers when they put a cricket score on them there. And Drinky, who I'm eyeing off as a trade-in target this week, potential skipper, Scotty boy.
I like it. 11 soon. Can't wait. What about Benny Hunt? He got 6 points for tying each shoelace. Yeah. Still managed to lose points. Incredible stuff from you.
Well, they put on 24 points or something. And Benny Hunt, I only scarcely watched that game on the weekend because I was in the car and I was trying to watch it on my phone and it kept chopping out and eventually pissed me off and I turned it off. I checked the score at the end of the game. I did see the end of the game. I'm like, Did Hunt go off for 60 minutes injured? Like, what have I missed here? Nah, just
shit the bed.
Just shit the
One
bed.
of the greats.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments who your Blue Wealth hot property player for round 25 will be, our last one of the season. Thank you to Blue Wealth Property for sponsoring that spot all year. It has been sensational. All right. Now, some hot topics. A little bit different this week. You're going to go through your top 5, would you call them must-haves for this week, or guys that at least have your attention for this weekend?
Yeah, originally it was going to be must-haves, but as I went through it, I was like last week when we were looking at head-to-head grand finals, there were plenty. I'm like, got to have this dude, got to have this dude. If you don't have Ben Hunt, you're stuffed. No, I didn't say that. I don't think. This
You
week,
did not say it, though.
Yeah, I don't think I had it in this segment. I might have. The 5 must-haves this week. Again, Nico Hines is just the obvious one for that Knights matchup.
Yep.
Lock him in for the handful of people who don't own him. I can't really split them, but I've got Drinky and Valentine Holmes. I'd be terrified if I didn't own either of them players this week. If they do put... I've just probably preferred Drinky, but the uncertainty over maybe if Dearden comes back in, hammer to the bench, minutes-wise. But Val Holmes, obviously probably less... shouldn't say less attacking upside, but harder to get involved at centre, but also kicking goals. So if they do score 7 or 8 tries and he kicks a bunch of goals, he would score really well. I'd want those guys. I've got AJ Brimson in again. Now, it's a little bit of an awkward matchup over at Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland, isn't it? Packed out stadium. The Warriors will be fired up for that. Their team's pretty solid. Got a few faces back. I think AJ Brimson is a 1 for buy game this week. I'm still considering him potentially over Drinky. And then the last one... as tough a matchup as it is, Cam Muntz is a big game player, isn't he? And the Storm playing to basically stay in the top 4 at fullback, I just can't not see him getting up for this one. What do you reckon?
Oh, mate, I just noticed you said Val Holmes there kicking 7 goals. Mate, if he kicks 7 goals, that'll be the Cowboys winning this one 14-12 off penalty goals, trying to get through that Penrith Panthers fucking wall from reserve grade they're going to put up. Yeah, Munster, I'm serious. I know one of the boys on your podcast last night mentioned Munster, that he likes him for a big game. I can't remember who it was, but I agree. I think he'll probably be my VC this weekend. First game, I can see him going big.
So will you VC him over... We'll get to captain soon, won't we?
We'll get to captain soon, yeah. But I like Munster this week. I just got that Munster feeling.
Yeah, he'll be in everything.
He'll be ready to go. I'm not convinced on Parramatta yet. In saying that, they always get up for this Melbourne game.
Yeah.
But I feel like even if Parramatta get up, I still feel like Munster can score 100.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I've got no doubt about that. All right. I'm going to go through a couple of draft plays for you guys. I had a number of messages. Obviously, a lot of people are out and done when it comes to SuperCoach Classic, or they're out of trade, so they don't have much going for them. A lot of you messaged me that are in your draft grand finals this weekend, and I know a lot of draft grand finals around 24, and I back that 100%, but I love round 25, and people hate it because there's restings. I love it because there's so much opportunity. There's so much opportunity if you know your footy of guys you can jump on. So a couple of guys from each game that I'd be looking at that I think will be available in the vast majority of your draft competitions, that they wouldn't be your first choice players or your captains or anything, but they would be cracking guys. Well, some of these fellas would be unreal to have as your AE. Now, if you're in a draft grand final, you have 17 players or however many players your squad is, because it's your last week, you want to drop everyone on your bench except for one player. If that one player goes big, you can then drop someone from your starting side and bring them in as your AE. It's one of the great little loopholes of draft, and you've got to do it grand final week. For the Eels and the Storm game, I think the one outside back that will be available in every single league and in deep leagues will be Marion Seve. You're able to grab him. He's come in and replaced young Tonamapea. Is Marion Seve a world beater? No, he is not. But there is a world where he could score a try or two. He could just fall over in the right spots outside Jerome Hughes there. If you get him on Thursday night, he can be your first AE, see how he goes. The Friday game, 6 p.m, Dogs v Manly. KO Weeks is my guy here. I think the Canterbury Bulldogs win. But Weeks, he is an incredibly talented footballer. He will be available in just about every single draft competition. He's another guy, if you're able to get him, chuck him on your bench, see what he puts out. If he does well, because he's got a high ceiling, you could take him. Roosters Souths, I'd be looking at the two guys that have come in. Momirovski, he would have come in this week. There's a good chance he's sitting on a lot of free agency lists at the moment. Hutcho as well. If no one's picked him up over the last few weeks, I would assume that someone already has. But if he's sitting there, another one to consider. I think with South Sydney, the guys that have come in and everything, I think most of them will be owned. I think Paulo will be owned. I think Tane Milne will be owned. So Hutcho and Momorowski are probably the 2 picks from the Roosters. Saturday Arvo, Warriors Titans. I think this is a really interesting game to target. And I'd be looking at Jojo Fafita from the Gold Coast Titans, moves into the centre spot. He's one that I'd be looking at. And one for the Warriors, which I think a lot of people will overlook, Jesse Arthurs. I think playing at Mount Smart Stadium outside SJ. SJ had an absolute Barry Crocker last week. So I think their last game at Mount Smart for this year, I think SJ performs reasonably well. We've seen him link up with Jesse Arthurs in the past. I wouldn't be surprised to see him cross for a meaty. The other one, if you're looking for a 2RF, and this is the beauty of it, as I said, drop your entire bench. Just grab Jack Murchie. If he ends up starting, he'll probably play decent minutes for the Warriors, which we've seen over the last few weeks that anything can happen with that Warriors team and who they pick. So Jack Murchie's another one just to keep an eye on in their extended squad. Dragons, Broncos, I'd be looking in the direction of Tautau Moga for the Dragons. If no one owns him, he's outside Zach Lomax. The Broncos looking like a bit of a flat track. What does Zach Lomax love more than anything? A flat track that he can flick out of. So Tautau Moga, wouldn't be surprised to see him cross. And Deloise Hoyter is another one that if he is available, you could consider him as well, playing left centre for the Brisbane Broncos. Is going to be playing outside Tyson Gamble, which worries me a little bit. We know that Tyson isn't the greatest ball distributor. So he'd probably be on the low end of this for me. Cowboys Penrith, this is where it gets interesting. This is where your opportunity is. You've got Taruva. I would say he's probably owned by someone else in your comp already because he played a few weeks ago and people would have grabbed him. But I really like Tom Jenkins. He's making his debut for the Penrith Panthers. Blonde-haired centre that's come through at the Panthers last few years. I think he's signed up for another 2 seasons. Personally, I think that if he was at any other club, he would have played a fair whack of first grade already. So keep an eye on Tom Jenkins. You've also got Jennings, Eisenhuth. If any of these guys are available, grab them. If you need a good 2RF, Jermaine Hopgood, he's playing lock for the Penrith Panthers this week. I think he'll play 50 minutes, which means he will score 50 points. Really good PPM. He's actually moving to Parramatta next year. Now, Parramatta are losing Isaiah Papali'i. They'll probably see Madison move to the edge there next year. I reckon Hopgood is going to come in onto the bench of Parramatta, and I think he's going to do really well next year. He's one of my tips for buyers of the season. Next year, I can see him doing really well. So keep an eye on Jermaine Hopgood, a safe 50 in your team with a bit of upside. Knights Sharks, just about every player that I'm interested in should be owned. If Ikavalu isn't for whatever reason, worth grabbing him in this game, but I assume that he will be owned. And then you've got Tigers, Raiders. Now, for the Tigers, we've got your mate, Free Barnes, scored 2 meaties last week, played really well. I don't know if he's going to cross for 2 tries again, but if the Raiders do rest players and it's at Leichhardt, I can see the Tigers putting in a half-decent performance here.
Yeah, definitely.
I think if they get your full-strength side, they're in a bit of curry. But I think if they get a weakened Raiders side, which I think there's a really good chance they do, especially without those front rowers, I reckon they're a chance. Yep. New Brown's the other one, playing 13, no stranger to crossing for a try as well. The Raiders extended bench. Now, this is just a little strategy that I'd use if you're in a draft competition early in the week. As I said, if you've got a bench of absolutely nobodies, if I was you, I would grab C&K, I would grab Hopewade, I'd grab Frawley. You would probably drop them again on Sunday, but at least if you've got them and your opposition is desperate come the end of the week, and then if C&K, Hopper and Frawley all come into this side, you don't want to be fucking versing them against the Tigers. All of them could put on a score.
And then the other one is, I don't know how highly owned he'd be, but having played off the bench basically all year / reserve grade, Corey Harawira-Naera.
Yep.
If Hutto Young, if any of basically Hutto Young, Elliot Whitehead, Joe Tapney, Adam Elliott get rested, Corey could come on to an edge and play 80 minutes, which could be anything.
Yeah, I would assume he would be owned in just about every comp just for potential. But if he's not...
Waiting on that injury.
Yeah, if he's not, though, you need to grab him. And you're essentially going for 3 cock block plays here. Do not let your opposition get some Raiders to take on a West Tigers side on Sunday afternoon at Leichhardt Oval. It's going to be a dry track, I assume. So, yeah, be a little bit smart with your SuperCoach draft plays this weekend and utilise your bench and your AE. It quite often will be the difference, especially if you can hit one of those guys who can score 2 tries and go 80 or 90 points. It'll be a sensational get. All right, I'm going to take a breath for a couple of seconds and get into our questions
I
from
enjoy
you
that,
guys.
mate. Just get to take a back seat.
I forgot you were here, to be honest with
listen
you.
to the guru of wisdom. You're in your zone.
In my zone. Absolutely in my zone. I'm back to being a draft guy after the bed shit last week. So, all right, first question comes from Anthony Zanner, and we're talking some pods here. Who to replace the Panthers boys with if I have trades? Sebastian Chris or Lomax? Now, Sebastian Chris is a little bit outside the box, but mate, at the end of the day, it's a 1 week play now. And if Sebastian Chris does well this week, it's a cracking fucking play. You throw out everything you know about Sebastian Chris. It's all about this week, v the West Tigers. Outside Jack Whiten on that left edge, if they're all playing, I don't hate it. I think he's just about guaranteed to play this weekend. I don't see a world where they go, you know what, Sebi Chris needs a fucking spell. I don't hate it. But Zach Lomax, I like his matchup against the Broncos. As I said, Zachy boy, love him, great player. Does love a flat track though. He'll be looking forward to this game against the Broncos. I would have to go Lomax. I don't hate the Sebastian Chris one as much as I would have 3 weeks ago though.
Yeah, I think there's better Raiders players than Sebastian Chris to target, and Jordan Rapana's the big one. I think he scored 120 last week. He's so pivotal to the way the Raiders attack. Jack Whiten playing on the left edge is very dominant in the halves, as we know. Gets a lot of ball on the left edge, which helps Jordan Rapana. And I think Rapana's probably the man more than that. And if they have their full strength side on deck and they're playing for a top 8 spot, Xavier Savage is a super pod. I don't mind him at all. That being said, I'd just be so wary of trading in Raiders players. I would want to have my team set up that if at, say, 7:30 on Saturday night, if the Broncos get done and it looks like the Raiders could rest, I'd want to have a backup plan and a good backup plan because there's every chance it happens.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's where a guy like Adam Dewey's going to really come in handy. I just, if you have got Adam Dewey, for the love of God, make sure he's on your reserves list.
Yeah.
So that you can utilise him if you need to, if these other guys are out.
And then I suppose the other thing there is, let's say you do trade in a Jordan Rapana or a Seb Chris, one of these Raiders boys, you can, the Night Sharks matchup, Sunday Arvo in Newcastle looks good as well. So hopefully if we do get word that they're resting after those first cuts have come in at the 24-hour mark and the Raiders are in the 8, you can target some of those Sharkies players because there's a lot of good options there too. For
sure. Our next one comes from Stevie Hebner. Are we worried about the Raiders who gets rested? Sort of already covered this a little bit earlier. We're assuming Josh Papali'i, Joe Tapine. They'd be the two standout ones, wouldn't they?
They're the two. And then I think, let's say they've got the 90-man squad and 2 come in and Papali'i and Taps drop out. You know, you could also see Hutto Young going to the bench and maybe Harry and I are starting on the edge.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if we get to 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon and they cut it down to 19 and Chance isn't one of them, I might burst into tears. Yeah. I think I'll be heading for, I can't imagine how you'd be fucking feeling.
Along with every Raiders fan, everyone in the capital, just give the man a run.
Fuck, it'd be a tough pill to swallow. Poor bastard. All right. This one comes from Big Les League. Runs a good podcast. Leslie, I coached him the last few years. Good fella. Payne Haas, a late trade in with Pat Carrigan back. I've got to push against this one.
Trade in or trade out? Trade in?
Trade in, sorry, yeah.
Definitely not. And all this talk of...
I assume it's trade in unless it's trade out. I wouldn't be... Let's answer both then. I wouldn't be trading in. I probably wouldn't waste a trade out.
Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't be trading out. But Brisbane are playing for potential top 8 spots, so there's no reason why he plays fewer minutes or his output stops. In terms of this, I still remember getting blasted about not starting the year with him, and he's a must-have because he started the year with 91. Well, Payne Haas now averages 63, and he has a 5-round average of 56, 3-round average of 52. It's like front row. Tapney's probably the only one making me look a little bit dumb in my not over-investing in front rowers because Taps has been phenomenal. But even Taps has come back to the pack with a 3-round average of like 55, 60 or something. So, as I said, that's why I personally choose to chase the higher upside attacking players nowadays.
Yeah, for sure.
But Taps has hurt. I'll cop that.
Yeah, and you don't need help looking dumb. So, all right, our next one comes from Alex Clark. Is Olakau'atu a play this weekend? I think so. I mean, as much as I don't think Manly win against Canterbury, this Manly team could turn it around at any minute just for a one-off game. So I think if you are not playing Olakau'atu, you must have one of the most stacked squads of all fucking time, all things considered. Yeah. Have you got him?
I do.
You do, yeah. You have to play him, don't you?
I think so. And look, it looked like he, along with a few other Manly boys, checked out early last week. Ola had 5 runs in that game.
Yeah.
Now, I know that they were pumped and there wasn't a lot of opportunity, but 5 runs is pretty mediocre. So, hoping they can bounce back. And at the end of the day, as I said, Manly could turn it on their head and lift for the final game of the season. And if they do, I'm hoping Ches and Ola get amongst it.
And I mean, mate, he had 5 runs last week, incredibly disappointing. He's still based out of 34.
Yeah.
Like, it's not terrible. I mean, he had no attacking stats whatsoever. So, if one of those 5 runs can just be a decent Olakau'atu run, all of a sudden you're looking at 50. Sure. I think he is a must-play this weekend. All right, our next question. Peter Wright says, Tino or Hudson, who scores more? Love Hudson Young. Think he's an absolute gun. Think if he plays 80 minutes, he could potentially top Tino. But I think you just have to play it safe here with Tino personally. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think... Look, I don't love Tino as a tradie this week. I know he's gone big, 109 and 90 the last 2 weeks, big minutes. But going over the ditch there, playing essentially for... Well, they're playing for nothing. Does he play his big minutes again? Maybe. But... Like, if the Broncos beat the Dragons and we knew that Huddle was going to play 80 minutes, I'd be him every day of the week. But we don't know that, so Tino's got to be the safer play, doesn't it?
Yeah, Tino's an interesting one in our draft comp. The bloke that owned Tino 2 weeks ago was trying to win a game that he couldn't win in our draft comp. He actually dropped Tino. A guy then picked him up, and he's gone 109, 90, did you say? Yeah. And now that guy's in the grand final this week with the Titans, a pretty good matchup. So
madness.
Yeah. Bit filthy on you there, Philby. All right, let's go to Jason Doherty. He says, has Tapane locked himself... Fuck, it's the Joey Tapane show today. I'm getting sick of talking about him. Has he locked himself into the gun territory? I assume this means for next year. I want to say yes, but Ricky Stewart roulette in minutes. I don't know if I could lock him 100% into guns, but I'm very, very close to do it. Do you start with him round 1 next year?
Originally, I was going to say no, and I'm still probably going to say no for the exact reason I just mentioned. That's it. I don't pay overs, particularly to start the year on prop front rowers. I spend my money big early in the year on spine players. The only thing being, he started the year pretty slow taps, so he's only averaging 67. I thought that'd be substantially higher. So I haven't had a look at what that equates to, but if 67 is like sort of late 500K. It's probably a pretty good price for what he's delivering now. You would argue he's underpriced to start the year. So I'm not going to say no, but as you said, with Sticky's rotations and there'll be a blow-up in-house somewhere, there's something to be going on. So who knows? But as far as starting round 1 next year, I'm 50-50. I don't know at this point.
Just to give you some numbers on Joey Tapane, it's incredibly impressive. 67 average for this year. I expected it to be higher as well. It should be noted that his first 6 weeks, his scores were 60, 44, 44, 54, 59, 71. In the first 6 weeks, he went above his season average once, and it was by 4 points.
Yeah.
So to finish the season with a 67-point average is fucking unbelievable.
And it's what we've spoken about, isn't it? In that time, particularly to start the season, the first sort of 4 weeks, he was playing 40 to 45 minutes, and we always said, we know Taps has got the motor on him to play anywhere from 60 to 80 minutes, whether that be on an edge in the middle, he can do it. And he's increased to around that 60-minute mark, even more in the back end of the season. And unsurprisingly, his scores have gone through the roof in that time. So the minutes are there, and Taps is on fire.
Next question from Jordan Wilson. CTW most likely to go large. If you had to pick just one this week that you think goes big, is there a standout for you?
CT Dub. I mean, one game that we probably haven't touched on that much is that Sharks and Knights game. And I think the Sharkies boys are pretty well poised. It's so hard with the way the Sharkies attack both sides of the field so efficiently, trying to work out who's going to get the SuperCoach points, who's going to score the tries. Like, I think Ikavali, Ramian, Talakai, Mulitalo are all great buys this week, and Lockie Miller. 2 of them could get 150 and 2 could get 20. Like, it's just really hard to predict. And people say, which Sharkies outside back do we get? I don't know. And then we don't know if Mulitalo's playing right or left. Like, who knows what's going to happen? Let's say, gun to head, you had to go one of those back 5. Who would it be?
Mulitalo. It should be noted as well, I've obviously got Lockie Miller. He's not available at CTW. He's only halfback. So we take him out. I just think Mulatalo is the safest one. I heard Matty Ryan talking on your podcast last night about Sifatalakai, and geez, he sounded like a Sifatalakai owner for the last few weeks. It sounds like, mate, I hope he does well. Yeah. It's like, oh, you poor bastard. I would go Mulatalo, though.
Yeah, I think Mulatalo's the man as well. Let's see how that one pans out. But as I said, it could be any of those boys. But yeah, I do like one of the Sharkies players. Take your pick.
I remember going out to Origin 1 with you at the start of the year. We did the live show and we got on the train, and the first thing you said was, I'm going to trade in Mulatalo. And I went, Mulatalo? And by the end of the fucking train ride, I was Mulatalo's number one fucking fan. God, you did a number on me.
I look like a genius for the next 6 weeks, and then we know the story since.
It's been tough since, but hopefully he can deliver this week. That would be huge. All right, our next one, Alex Clark. I think he's dipped the chip here, Alex Clark, with 2 questions today. Best pod captain or play safe with Hines, which will roll into our captain's chat for this week. If you're not going Hines, are you out thinking the room?
Well, you're definitely not, because he scored 66 last week and nearly every man his dog had the C on him. So I don't think so. As I said, I'm really keen to target potentially that Cowboys-Panthers matchup. You, believe it or not, have got me thinking a little bit that maybe Penrith get up for this one more than I think they will. But it all depends on your circumstances and what you're after, whether you're looking to consolidate or whether you're looking to jump rank. Because if you're looking to jump rank, I don't think Hines is your man. And the Sharks should do a bit of a number on the Knights here in a day game to finish the season. But the Knights, they're full forward packs there. Most of their backlines there, give or take a few in the spine. But what if the Knights get up for it in front of the home fans and put on a bit of a showing and the attacking stats do evade Nico a little bit? Well, it does create opportunity elsewhere. So what am I? I'm sitting 790th. I'm kind of like, well, if I finish 900th or if I finish 600th, there's no real big difference there. So I'm sort of thinking about having a bit of fun and going stuff it. I'll go the different route and go for a pod captain in maybe Drinkwater or Val Holmes. But that's it. If you're looking to consolidate, Nico's the safe and the obvious one.
Yeah. Well, let me know who you're captain, because I might do exactly the same. Yeah. Mate, as far as VCs go, Cam Munster, we've already spoken about him. We both think he's in for a good game against Parramatta. Roosters Souths. Latrell Mitchell has been on an absolute fucking tear the last few weeks. He has done an absolute number on me. Done a number on you too. You haven't owned him. It's been
a large number, yes.
Yes, it is. I actually looked at his numbers last night over the last few weeks. 80 is a poor game for him over the last few weeks.
Yeah, he's been certainly my regret of the season missing out. Like it was Joey Manu for a while there, but that was the whole Toto situation, and Joey's sort of come back to the pack the last month, which has been okay, but Latrell's been the one that's really killed me missing out on him.
Since he's come back, 99, 93, 136, 99, 52, 152, 115, 105, 70 fucking 6. 76 has been his second worst score on that run home.
That cuts deep going through that, mate, because it's like, hindsight's a wonderful thing. And I don't often fall back on hindsight, because you'll just be a miserable human being if you do. But, geez, if we slotted him in round 16, it could be a different story.
Mate, I almost want to give us a pat on the back for staying relevant without him.
Yeah.
It has been insane. You look at that. He's had 3 scores under 90.
Yeah, 6 weeks of saying, or 8 weeks of saying, that draw will bring him back to the pack. He doesn't have enough, doesn't run it enough. Wrong on that one on all accounts.
Yeah.
Cop it.
Hey, Matty, I'll bring you in if you've got a minute.
Yep.
The thing that worried me the most about South Sydney's attack last week, that it was, you could tell there was a major difference without Damien Cook. I don't think the halves and stuff were getting as much clean ball, hence Latrell Mitchell not getting as many opportunities. Is this the week where Latrell, I'm not going to say he's going to go quiet, but can you still see Latrell putting on 100-plus Supercoach score? It's against the Roosters. He's going to be up for it. But I just worry about how South Sydney looked with their attack last week. What are your thoughts?
I tend to agree if it was against any other team on any other occasion.
Yeah,
but because it's against the Roosters, like his former club, there's just so much storyline. Your reasoning makes sense, and I do agree with it, but there are so many variables, so I wouldn't back against it, put it that way.
Form consistently goes out the window with this game, doesn't it?
100%.
I'll throw another one at you, Matty, just for the panic merchants out there. Latrell Mitchell in Taree yesterday, didn't train, suspension history, injury history. I know it's a big game with the opening of the new stadium, but if you're a coach, this game, look what, they can finish the highest. Is it 5th or something, maybe get a home semi, or 6th?
Basically, if Eels win tomorrow, the game means fuck all. Like literally fuck all. If the result goes the other way and Melbourne win, which I think they will, then a team could go to 5th and play someone else. Yeah. And I'm sure South and Roosters fans don't want to play each other week 1, and whereas the rest of the comp do. So but Latrell, I'd be resting him. I'd be resting Murray, but I think they're both playing.
So if Parramatta win, is there a chance that Roosters do play South finals week?
If Parramatta wins, South and Roosters will play week 1.
Can I ask you an honest question?
Yeah.
Would you rather play at fucking Allianz than out at Homebush?
100,000,000%.
I think there's a genuine world where the South Sydney Rabbitohs could go, fuck it, we'd rather play at this stadium. We know our fans are going to show up here.
Exactly.
Like, it might be an away game on paper, but it's not.
It's not. It's not an away game. It's in the middle of our home.
You'll get more Rooster you'll get more Bunnies fans and Roosters fans anyway.
100%. Yeah.
So if we talk about potential restings and that result, what was it? That was if Melbourne win?
No, if Para win.
That was if Para win. Like, yeah, it's only for new stadium, cool. But big picture, why in the world would you play James Tedesco? Why would you play Joey Manu, please? Imagine
if Manu and Latrell gets rested.
Yeah, they could.
Your erection might hit your fucking chin.
Oh, I'd lose my mind.
To put it simply, if Eels win, this game is pointless.
Yeah, well, and you're going to be playing each other the week later.
Yeah.
Even if the Storm do win, they're still playing for 5th? I guess you'd probably prefer to play the Raiders than each other, I suppose. But even so, you don't want to reveal all your cards, do you, the week before the finals? You give these, how terrified as a coach would you be watching the trial go there, mate? Don't hit anyone high, you've got a record. How's that hammy going? Surely you rest him. Maybe it's just me trying to manifest it as a non-owner.
You're right, Timmy, because if, just say Storm do win and Eels come 5th, then it still doesn't really matter. You're either playing Para or you're playing the Raiders. And as a South fan, there's not a whole lot of difference there.
And it's interesting because, if I'm South Sydney, I'm going, well, I've already got Damien Cook and Campbell Graham out. Do I maybe go, fucking if I'm the Roosters, I'm going, I'm without Rads, I'm without Tupu.
Well, didn't they already say that Campbell Graham was could have played, but it was a bit precautionary?
Yeah, exactly right.
So they already got that in the back of the mind. Oh, the Stallions are going top 100.
Imagine if it does play out this way. Oh, how good would that be?
Imagine that. No Tapani, no Joey Manu, no Latrell Mitchell.
If Teddy was ruled out, who else is relevant from that game? If Teddy, Latrell, that wouldn't impact us. If Manu's ruled out, it'd be great for you. I could still put out a side this week.
Crichton's one that could potentially sit.
Angus, yeah. Mate, can you imagine if all the Roosters rest their troops? They'll have to take guys from New South Wales Cup, which will be the Bears. The Bears play the Penrith Panthers this week.
Wow.
And that could be an under-18s fucking
Ron Massey Cup versus Ron Massey Cup.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, they'll be handing out. Might get a Guernsey just quietly.
Yeah, dust the boots off.
Yeah, not bad.
I'll be keen.
Yeah, I won't be, but yeah, fun.
Rock up next week with a 9th broken nose. How good would that be?
Yeah, so that game will be interesting. I don't think I'll be VCing a Teddy or a Latrell or any of those guys. I'm just not sure which way I'd go. I'm obviously not going to VC Latrell because I don't fucking have him, and I've got a personal vendetta against him now. But yeah, I'd be looking elsewhere. I think I'd be going Cam Munster. As much as I think the Panthers do put up a really good fight against the Cowboys, I do think that I would probably rather take a gamble on me being wrong on that with a Drinky or a Val as a VC instead of... I know the Roosters-South game is going to be tight. I know it's going to be close. I know both teams are going to be a little bit more clunky than usual. So I probably would lean to your Drinky or your Val play over one of those two.
Yeah, and I think as we both think Munster goes big in this one, but look, with Nico coming up against the Knights, you're probably going to want, 140 to loop minimum? You wouldn't want many less unless you do have a really free shot at it, which some might this weekend, and that changes a little bit, but... Let's say we're banking on an AE of 30 and you have to sit a gun out of your team to do the loop. You probably want 130, 140. And I just think probably the Cowboys contingent in that game are more chance than Munster against the Eels.
If the Cowboys lose Saturday 7, this is the other one. Yeah. If the Cowboys lose Saturday 7:30, that will lock the Sharkies in. They've got nothing to play for. They finish second, whether win, lose, draw, fuck it, who cares? That worries me. If I'm a Cam McInnes owner, that worries me, minutes-wise. And if I'm a Nico Hines owner, that does worry me as well. Surely. Yeah, you've got Trindle sitting on the bench there. And if that does happen, who the fuck are you captaining?
If you were locked there, I mean...
If you've got Nicho Hynes as your skipper all weekend, you get to the end of the Cowboys game and they've been dusted by this Panthers side. Unlikely, but anything can happen. The Sharks side, you could see a few restings there. It could be a nightmare.
Restings there. So then you'd look at if the Raiders are still playing for their H, maybe a Joe Tapani type. If the Broncos lose and the Raiders are resting, you then go to Adam Dewey.
Well, I think Adam Dewey's your pick. I really do. I don't think I could trust Joe Tapani as a skipper.
It's all of a sudden become such an exciting finish to the season. Talking through all these potential scenarios, and as we said, that game on Thursday night, the Eels Storm, that'll decide a lot of it.
Yeah, I would be going Cam Munster Thursday night. You'll get the updates by then. You'll know what Cam Munster's going to score. You know where you're sitting. If something does happen that the Cowboys win and Nicho Hynes is rested, thank God. Do you remember during the year when I absolutely bed shit and picked up a 2RF that was enough, but he was only 2RF? He plays for the Tigers last game of the week. So I'm in a position where I can bring him in as a VC if need be. So I'm fucking stoked that by some form of miracle has played out for me. But yeah, it is going to be... I'm really looking forward to coming in here next week and talking about how this played out, because it could go one of many, many ways. On that note, guys, we will be back next week and for the next 4 weeks. We are going to be going through every single team, 4 teams per week, and reviewing their SuperCoach season. We haven't worked out exactly what the topics will be for each team, but I'm assuming, best performance, most disappointing, probably guy to watch for next year that we'll be keeping an eye on.
That'll be the fun one, I reckon. It'll be good looking back on it, but really excited. And I normally shut the shop up at the end of the regular season and just try and enjoy finals footy, but you've conned me into going through finals. But I do like looking forward and going, all right, who's going to be cheap? Like, look at Brandon Smith averaging his 50 or whatever. If he's a starting hooker next season, he's going to be one that's going to be like lock and load. Yeah,
for sure. So plenty to go through next week. We'll also... If you're having a look at the Dolphins, the non-geographic Dolphins, and how their squad's looking for next year. So that will be a good little bit of fun.
Straight captain, whoever they're playing every week.
Love it. Which of their 3,000 front rowers am I going to captain that week? Can't wait. Guys, thank you for joining us on Beers and Breakevens once again, brought to you by Blue Wealth Property. They make investing in property easy for you. You can reach out to Tony and the team across all social medias. We'll try and drag Tony back in over the next few weeks to have a yarn. I'm not sure if he's still watching. I think his SuperCoach season might have been done and dusted by this point. He might have kicked the can and turned the TV off by now. Also brought to you by Bloke in a Bar. Go out, grab yourself a case this weekend. The Bloke jerseys, they go live tonight at 6 p.m. Got jerseys there for the big thickies as well, so get around those. Make sure you're listening to SuperCoach Playbook podcast, Rugby League Guru podcast, and especially this week, make sure you're looking at the Stats HQ for all of your ownership and everything. Incredibly important this week.
Yeah, absolute cracker, mate. All the numbers you need to reel in someone 175 points ahead of you.
Please. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week. I'll be $200 richer and one of you will be $2,000 richer. How good. Cheers, legends.